Fine, great to see you.
Oh,
Great to see everyone, Stefan, Nanette, and Karen. How are you all doing?
we're doing great.
We have our friends of Nano from the UK as well. Who have we got online from the UK?
And Karen, I know from meetings in the United States, so I've met Karen before.
Oh, very good, very good. And we have Maria. Lovely.
Good morning,
You're all
Maria.
very welcome. And we have some of our colleagues here, and I know we're going to have more joining us as well. So you're all very welcome. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is John Smith, and I'm the CEO here at Nano Nagle Place. So we're delighted to host this morning's gathering, our Friends of Nano conference. And I suppose it's just my job to welcome everyone and to, I suppose, kick off this morning's session. I had the fortune of spending a week in Newfoundland last year, where I met some of you. And one of my takeaways from that, one of my abiding memories, was that Friends of Nano is such, I suppose, a vibrant and exciting initiative for the presentation family. And very much as we look to the future, I think we'd all agree Friends of Nano is something that has a huge potential for presentation family, obviously not just in Ireland here for us and our team in Nano Nagle Place, but for presentation family worldwide. So I suppose the main thing I wanted to kind of say was just to say that we have launched a new strategic plan here in Nano Nagle Place, and we've entitled our strategic plan "Where All Communities Belong." And we have organized the strategic plan around 4 priorities. The first of which is empowerment through education. The second of which is impact through dialogue. The third is transformation through community. And the fourth is sustainability through innovation. And very much we're looking to the future. We're looking to bring our work together around those 4 priorities. And the work of Friends of Nano and reaching out and connecting to our alumni worldwide is very much to the forefront of our thinking across all 4 of those priorities. So we're very committed to Friends of Nano and to looking to grow it here in Cork and in Ireland and to play our own part in Nano Nagle Place as part of the journey of Friends of Nano. We see it as having huge potential. And we're very much supported here by volunteers across Nano Nagle Place. And we're going to look to integrate and to extend that connection between our volunteers and Friends of Nano as well into the future. So that's all I wanted to say for now, just to wish you well for the morning and just to say that you can be assured of our support and of our commitment to Friends of Nano from all of the team here in Nano Nagle Place in Cork in Ireland. Okay. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
So, thanks everyone. So just to mention as well today that we'll be recording this because I know a lot of the friends in Nano, it's nighttime for a lot of people or very early morning. So we'll record this and then we can share this maybe recording. But is everyone happy for us to keep going with that? Excellent. Thank you so much. We can keep that and maybe share that around. So that was John Smith, our CEO of Nano Nagle Place, just saying a quick hello there. Now we're just going to invite over here Sister Prema, who's just going to start us off with a quick prayer. Prema, if you would like to. Thanks, everyone.
Hello. As Jessica said, I am Sister Prema, one of the resident sisters with Margaret Hart and Mary Ivers. And today's prayer, Jessica will help me on the way. But we start with a song, Hail Mary, honoring Mary, our mother.
I'll just share my screen just to get that song on there. Here we are. So hopefully everyone can hear that song playing in a second. Thanks, everyone. Sorry about the sound issues. It wouldn't be a Zoom call, I guess, without any sound issues from our end anyway. But thanks for taking a moment to start us off with those lovely words with our prayer. So, Prema, let's just continue our prayer session there.
Well, in 2 days, we celebrate the presentation of the Blessed Virgin Mary in communion with thousands of presentation people and friends of Nano around the world. Why is this feast important for us to celebrate? How did we come to be called presentation? Nano had named her little group the Society of the Charitable Instruction of the Sacred Heart of Jesus. In the years subsequent to Nano's death in 1784, the very survival of the enterprise was threatened, and they had to go into enclosure for their survival. In 1791, a new constitution was drafted by Father Lawrence Callanan, who had been Nano's spiritual director. Aware of her devotion to the feast of Mary's presentation in the temple, he agreed with the sisters to change the title of the congregation to the Sisters of the Presentation of the Blessed Virgin Mary. Tradition tells us that Joachim and Anne, parents of Mary, in thanksgiving for the birth of their daughter, decided to consecrate her to God. The girl Miriam was brought to the temple when she was 3 years old. The priest received her hand, after kissing her, blessed her, saying, "The Lord God has magnified your name for all generations. Through you, the Lord will reveal deliverance to the children of Israel in the last days." Mary remained in the temple until her 12th year. So this is the feast that we celebrate as presentation of the Blessed Virgin Mary. Now we listen to a poem by Raphael Considine, Presentation, Mary of the Dawn. And Jessica will read it for us.
Presentation, Mary of the Dawn. Mary, living from that sacred place where earth meets heaven, your heart discerned the Holy One in stars, in sun, in lives of men and women, in wind, in rock, in miracle of leaven, in sacred word proclaiming Israel's story, in all the dailiness of life. Woman of life, welcome us into your home, your place, your sacred space. Our eyes search to see you as you saw. Our hearts yearn to know as you knew, to know the thousand faces of the one above, below, within, beyond, among us, flesh among us. Be light for our darkness, be dawn for our new day.
Mary was a poor Palestinian peasant woman living in occupied territory, struggling for survival and dignity, imbued with Jewish faith. She was also a refugee in Egypt with her family, Joseph and Jesus. She knows the pain of mothers, children in anguish. We take a few moments to be in stillness, get in touch with our breathing, receive the breath of life freely given, and let it go freely without holding it. We breathe love and strength to those suffering in Gaza, Lebanon, Ukraine, South Sudan, and the many parts of our world and our earth, Mother Earth, suffering. Let our collective energy and love flow into each of them. May they feel healing. May they feel hatred and pain being washed away. We send blessings to our leaders at COP29 on their 9th day of deliberations. We send blessings to all our presentation family around the world, the sisters, friends of Nano, our collaborators, our families. And we pray, Creator God, you are luring us into a future more expansive than our minds can conceive. Grace us and make space in the womb of our hearts for the possibilities you offer us. Unsettle us, disturb us, move us to the edge of new horizons, that we may be open as you come to us in our sisters and brothers and the cry of our earth. May wisdom's flame shine for us, within us and from us. Our feet know the way, our hearts carry the light. This was the IPA Assembly 2017 prayer. So we conclude today's prayer. Mary and Nano, friends of God and prophets, lover of the poor and the oppressed, truly our elder sisters, teach us your way of peace. May we walk gently through the world, bearing the light of peace and hope. Blessings of the women of peace to each of you and to our troubled world on this beautiful feast day. Amen. Thank you.
Well, thanks so much to Sister Prema for that lovely way to start this little session. So thanks again, Prema. Next up, I'm going to invite Karina up to speak. So Karina is going to just give a quick update on all things going on with the ministry here at Nano Nagle Place. Karina is the coordinator of the Lantern Project. I can't even fit into one sentence all the work that Karina does. She does everything and anything, and she's a huge impact on the community. So we'll just introduce Karina here from the Lantern Project.
Good morning, everybody, and it's lovely and an honor to be here this morning. And thank you for creating this beautiful space, Jessica, for us to join together to celebrate this incredible presentation family that we're all part of. So my job is to coordinate the Lantern Project, and the other aspects of the ministry team are Cork Migrant Centre and also a men's group, and as well as that, the sisters have their spiritual outreach. So all of us engage with community in different ways and by different methods. But for us in the Lantern Project, the things that we do, people may come to us for community education, learning things like crochet or arts and crafts or mindfulness or storytelling. But everything, the basis of all our work, it is about people having time to reflect on what supports their well-being and what allows them to live a more full and engaging relationship-focused life. In our work through the Migrant Centre and ourselves in the Lantern Project, the men's group and the spirituality, we have the blessing of bringing people together to engage in different topics and subjects and lots of different focuses. But our whole and sole aim is to bring community together, that it might be developed and that relationships might be modelled and fostered in a safe, kind learning space. In the last few months, we've had the most beautiful, uplifting, I suppose, engagements. We've seen transformation firsthand in individual lives. We have seen progression paths that would surprise many people. And it's just such an incredible position to be in, to witness transformation of individuals firsthand. And I'm here to witness to you that Nano is truly alive and well in the work that's happening here. I suppose I would be remiss without sharing with you the celebration we had this weekend for my colleague, Dr. Naomi Machete. Naomi was honoured this weekend as from the local university here in Cork City. I know that many of you are from all over the world, but in truth, we believe in Cork. It's really an incredible and magical place to be. And our university college is the centre of the city and the education in the whole of Munster. It will be the biggest institution. So Dr. Naomi was given a prestigious award, an alumni achievement, the highest honour that can be awarded to a person from the college. Her exceptional work with Cork Migrant Centre at Nagle Place is nothing short of inspiring. Her dedication to empowering migrant communities, fostering inclusivity and creating pathways for meaningful engagement beautifully carries forward the incredible legacy of Nagle. To be working alongside people like Dr. Naomi and the sisters, the resident sisters, and our coordinator, John Brady of the men's group, and of course, all being ably allowed to do our job under the gentle guidance of our ministry manager, Helen, here, is just a joy. It's a joy to work in Nagle Place, and it's a joy to behold the ongoing legacy of Nagle. And it's an honour to be with you today and to be hearing about the incredible book that has been written by Stefan and Annette. And I hope that the rest of the day's conference blesses you as it has blessed me so far. It's lovely to touch base with you all, and I look forward to engaging with you again in the future. God bless and take care.
So big thanks to Karina for giving us those updates on all things ministry. So now I'll hand over to Stefan and Annette. So they're going to talk us through, all their work to do with the Children's I Am Nano book and what inspired them, and kind of a bit more behind the scenes on that process. So I think they'll be talking for about, you can correct me on this, about kind of 20-25 minutes, Stefan and Annette. And again, if it's okay with everyone, we have the session recorded so that hopefully maybe we can share this with friends in Nano who couldn't make it today. So I'll hand over to Stefan and Annette.
Great. Stefan will call up our slides and then I'll kick it off. So we'll see if this works in Zoom. There it goes. And before we start, Jess, I have to say, I agree with you. No matter how often you practice with Zoom, there's always one component that doesn't work, but I'm glad that we have our slides. So good morning, Cork, and those listening in. I am Nanette Miller, and I commissioned the book that Stefan so beautifully created. It is good to be again with you, all of you, and to be able to tell you about the inspiration for our book, I Am Nano Nagle, and the creation process of the book. I hope we have helped to bring her lantern to those who know her, to help them understand her a little better, and to those who don't know her, to show her there is path to light. And yes, one person can make a difference that spans centuries and continents. Next slide. Our relationship with Nano begins with the sisters in San Francisco. These sisters arrived in 1854, and on this Sunday, we finished the year-long celebration of their 170 years in San Francisco's. The sisters have faithfully tended the flame, as sisters all over the globe have, in education, literacy, outreach, working with immigrants, and justice work. Next slide. I attended Presentation High School in San Francisco, but reconnected with the sisters, as did Stefan Salinas at Most Holy Redeemer Church in San Francisco in the 80s, where a sister near and dear to us, Sister Cleta Harold, then pastoral associate, deeply impacted Stefan and I with her AIDS ministry, creating a hospice at the former Presentation Convent, truly like Christ, reaching out to the very marginalized. We worked on many projects with her. Because of Cleta, we both learned about Nano Nagle and the sisters in San Francisco and became more and more swept up in her charism. Hospitality and outreach and helping others became part of us as well. Next slide. After rereading a biography of Nano, One Pace Beyond by a Presentation Sister, and having bought many of Stefan's previously illustrated books for children of all ages, I approached him and we agreed to work together and to create this book. That is, to plant our acorn for readers across the globe. And the symbolism of the acorn is on purpose. Being an accountant, of course, we put our ideas on paper to make it happen, and it did happen. I will now go to the next slide and let Stefan tell you from his initial thoughts, research, and creation how this book came to be. But first, let us thank Susanna Ahern, Saoirse O'Brien, Jessica Cole, and John Smith of Nano Nagle for their belief in our project, allowing us to roll it out last year in Cork, and to Sister Mary Quinn and Sister Mary Dean for their warm embrace and hospitality while we were in Cork. So Stefan, please lead us through your wonderful process of creating this book with my 2 cents worth. Many cups of coffee at the corner coffee shop. Stefan? You're on mute. Oh, there you go.
Thank you. I'm unmuted now. Yes, thank you. It's wonderful to be here. Wait, where are we? Where do we begin? My name is Stefan Salinas, and Nanette, we've known each other for a while, and she's familiar with my work, and we've been, of course, as she said, in the same church. And a little over a year ago, 2021, 22, she said, you should do a book on Nano Nagle. And I was like, Nano who? And I said, no, I'm busy with other things right now. And one of my things I was busy with was this idea of doing a book about sisters and nuns around the world. And then she's like, no, I think you're good for this Nano Nagle book, And, it's sort of like the Holy Spirit going, hello, hello. Anyway, she convinced me, and we started working on it. So I started researching, reading every book I could on her, and then also going to the local library, to Stanford Library, going online, and trying to find everything I could about her and her world. A little nervous because I'm a male, you may notice, and I'm not a sister. I'm not a religious male either. I am a convert, more nervous. Before this book was made, I've never been to Ireland, and I've never lived in the 1700s, so I kind of felt a little bit of nerves and challenges. But anyway, So after all that, started working on researching these things. Then I got basically, she wanted not just to be a open and shut case. So didn't want to just have, this is some person's life, born, they did all these things, they passed away. But to also add her legacy, the chairism, how it's moved on into the world, into the 1800s and the 1900s and now to today. And so we wanted to have some of that. I also wanted to include elements of things that were happening around the time, some of her influences as well. So with 48 pages, I had to figure out what were the beats in the story, and then how to use the visuals as well as the text to help tell the story. So I started doing thumbnail sketches and with notes about what would be on each page and little larger ones, and all the while showing samples and rough drafts to Nanette, to make sure I'm keeping things correct. So here are all the drawings and illustrations in one box, while there are a few others. So a year or so work there. Some art influences I have. It's my favorite author illustrators, Peter Sis, Tommy DePaula, and Demi. There's something about all three of these. They have a depth to their work. Spiritual, it can be for children as well as adults. Humor, creativity, curiosity. So I definitely want to infuse this book with that. And medieval illuminated manuscripts, and also Persian illuminated manuscripts. That also became an influence. But I wanted to have a particular style to this book. I didn't know what it would look like. So for some reason, these two paintings just said something to me. Felix Nussbaum's The Folly Square from 1931 on the upper left. Something about the plains and the shadows and the muted colors and the architecture. I'd seen a painting by Diego Rivera, also from 1931, on a show of these children and people picking crops, plants. And then I know one may not think of Dracula when they think of Nagle, but I went to go see in a retro theater, Francis Ford Coppola's Dracula. And I don't know if you've seen it, but it's so creative the way he tells the story with models and imagery all on top of each other and maps and things. And let's just say I was dancing in the street after I saw the movie. That's it. I know how to walk into this world somehow. I have no idea, but spirit led me there. So the materials, I have the style, it kind of oscillates, but different materials. But I use a mix of black ink, a colored pencil, artist crayon, which just means expensive crayons, and then acrylic on paper. And I like using different colored paper and sometimes different textures. And I'd seen there's these Lokti material paper that's from Nepal that has some rich hues and also some interesting textures. So I was drawn towards that. And also I started thinking about colors, using color to help tell the story. So I have a set of muted colors and earth tones that would be more for the working class, more for the poor, and then some jewel tones like aqua and magenta and turquoise, orange, to show the wealth. And then as the story goes, the wealth becomes not material wealth necessarily, but also spiritual and education wealth, and that starts mixing as she starts reaching out to the people, the different classes. I had to look into clothing, various sundry sources, trying to find what she would have worn to these fancy balls, what the working class, the poor would have worn, the different hats in the 1700s. I even found some video where the people dress up for a ball that time, so I got to see how that looked, And as you can see in the book, then found a fancy wig for her to wear there, and see a man. I don't know if you can see it there on the right. He's wearing one of the hats. And Nagle Place, let me just say, if you haven't looked at it yet, but the website is amazing and there's a lot of resources. So I then saw, oh, there's the bonnet. So we have the more stylized bonnet that you would see in the illustrations, but then they have one of her bonnets. And then there's an actress that they have, Judy Chalmers, modeling the whole outfit there. And I even used some of her poses in the book. On the upper.
And we were very lucky that she came over to San Francisco as part of our 170th year anniversary and gave 4 different performances for the sisters, our stakeholders, and our high school. So it was, and I also have to say, when we went to Nano Nagle Place last year after Stefan was doing this on during the pandemic online, and you guys were wonderful, but then it was sort of like Nirvana when we actually got to walk through Nano Nagle Place and actually like, ooh, there it is. That's what Stefan had. Go ahead, Stefan.
I know, next time I plan this, I'm going to go to Rome first and then write the book on Rome. But yeah, so it's amazing. So the next slide is actually there's Judy Chalmers, and
Okay.
I didn't get to see this play. Nanette did, but I did get to have lunch with her with some of the sisters, and so it was a wonderful connection. Getting more connected with this presentation world. And then, well, if there is any kind of silver lining to that plague that we had, is that a lot more museums went online, including Nano Nagle Place. And so I got to go virtually into these museums. So I wanted to have, in the opening, the title page, you see a painting of Nano Nagle in a museum, and I wanted it to be in maybe a gallery there. And lo and behold, in the Cork Gallery, Crawford Art Gallery in Cork, they have a painting verse there. So I want to have that kind of setting there. And then there's some other portraits of other characters you'll be reading when you buy the book and read it. And I had to imagine, well, there's no paintings of the young Nano Nagle that I know of. So I had to imagine what would she look like a toddler, and what her wealthy parents look like. So finding more sources there, putting them together, making a cameo. And then also on the lower right, but maybe a fishmonger. Well, I saw some illustrations of some people working in the markets, and I had to put that in there, of course. Again, Nano Nagle Place had a display of all the different stages of the habits through the years, and that was a very valuable information. As well as this rare photo in the lower center of the nurse's outfit would have had. On the left, there's a young lady that's also in the book, modeled after a real young lady in India, being helped by some of the presentation sisters. So there's a cameo of someone that may recognize herself if she reads the book.
So I'm going to jump in because I know Jess and some of the people that are in the stage, or you saw our original presentation and we went through the book, but I think you can see there's some pictures from when we were in Ireland, and there's some pictures here. A wonderful thing about the book, it's not also a wonderful story, which you would have in a written book with just words, but there's an authenticity. So now I think after we kind of go through this, I said, oh my goodness, Stefan, it's so wonderful to see this now, because you can see every photo in the or photo drawing, sorry, Stefan, in the book really is rooted in authenticity. And then when you get that subtleness of these colors mean something, it brings a whole different thing when you reread the book. So there's always kind of like little excitements or discoveries as you go through this process. And so, I think that's been very interesting. Stefan?
Yes, so had to find more things that make it feel as if I have not been to Cork before this, and so I'm finding St. Finbarr's Cathedral, an old painting from 1798, how it looked originally. There's one scene outside of a bar, and I thought, well, there's one from 1759.
There were lots of pictures of bars to pick one out.
Well, I wanted to make sure it was one that wanted around at the time,
Okay.
On the lower left, there's this little tiny drawing here, and a priest that you'll see in one of the next slides, Father Donald, who is from Cork, who I know. He just saw this little drawing when it was still being made, and he said, "Oh, that looks like Cork." And I thought, I think I've touched something, And ballroom you'll see here, that's from one in Paris. And thanks to Google Earth and Google Maps, I got to walk around a little bit of Paris to try to find, well, was there a church that would have been around there at the time? We don't know which church it was. So there's one time where she had a little breakthrough moment where she saw outside of a carriage this poor family huddled outside of a church. So I found this one here, St. Severin Church. There's
Again,
some
I
other,
want to point out too that, as Stefan said, see the muted colors there. That's the way to get you suddenly into the mood of these are the poor people with the muted colors.
yes, so the blues. And on the right here, we have Menominee Castle. There's a castle that's on the Nagle estate in Ballygriffin area. And she had a few different castles. Now, I'm not sure which castle it was that she had learned instruction from, so I just picked one there, you know. And I had not visited the convent yet. So, of course, thanks to Google Earth and Google Maps, and also some old historic archives, I got to see, well, this is what it looked like. And also, there was a note saying that one of the floors was added later. So I had to subtract the floor for the lower right there. So just kind of show its instruction, one of the walls. Maps. What did Europe look like at the time, and also what did Cork look like at the time? And again, the only place I could find a map that had the route that she would walk at night was from a visual tour of Nano Place. So I kind of took that freeze frame there, my phone.
So Sister Mary Quinn did take us on this walk. And remember, Nano did this walk twice a day with bad knees. And I have to say, we had to be driven back. But Sister Mary Quinn's in her 80s, and she was just running up these hills with us. And we were like huffing and puffing, but we did get to follow that trail.
Yes, and it was drizzling too. But yeah, it was very mean. It was, I mean, and I think Nanette, excuse me. We are all incarnations of each other. And Olga and I were, I think this was very meaningful to me to finally like go through this place of history and up to this today. And then trying to imagine what did some of these cottages look like, and what did some lanterns look like, things in the cottages, as you will see in the book. And then we get to the first presentation convent, which there's no real detailed drawing of it left or anything, so I had to imagine what that looks like. I found a 2019 paper on it where they say that it appears that the convent had 8 hearths and 12 windows. There was also a small chapel. But the description in the annals suggests a very modest building, low, small, ill-contrived building, low and narrow rooms. And then I had a linea on this little other storage building on the side, a small open outdoor building. So I had to imagine that. So I have the sister and Nano holding these models, like you would see on the left, like in some of these old icons of saints that would have a model of a church or a convent that they've created. So here we have Nano with a little model there. And then in the center here, or kind of playing with that idea, this is shown twice in the book on the cover and inside, where she is holding a model of the first school. That's just a dirt floor cottage there, the first school she opened with pride, and she's within the school. You know, it's a little surrealism here, you know. Well, I'm also playing with this kind of stereotype of the idea of, well, little doll's house. But on the right, as you see, there's this old doll house from the 1690s. And at those period of time, they weren't for children. It was something that wealthy people would have as kind of show to be proud of some of their property. So they would have a little small version of maybe their house. And so usually that shows their material wealth. Well, here we have this humble cottage here, but the wealth is from, you know, the learning that the children will be receiving. And then what goes into all that learning and things like that? What goes into all these other settings? There's a carriage. I had to find what that carriage looked like. There's a loom. I thought I was going to use a round one, but then I found out that they weren't round at the time. They were rectangular for the needle point. And then also these little chalk sketch, what do they call? But they would write their notes. And then on the upper right, again, from the Nagle Place, you have the stool that she would carry around and sit at when she would teach. So that features twice in the book. As you can see, I started integrating them here on a 2-page spread. We taught reading, writing, arithmetic, history, as well as trade skills, sewing, embroidery, and lace making for the girls, and ship sail making for the boys. I personally, as I'm listing ever, I personally taught them catechism, the foundations of our faith. So you see this kind of comes alive with the different activities they were doing. and her writing. So I have a day job that can be sometimes a little boring, but the advantage of that is that I can do some research online. Haha. And there's a website that has all of her letters. They've scanned them and they have her writing. So previously, I had a small commission where I had to kind of make the writing of a famous poet. So it kind of gave me a little practice. So I was practicing her writing there. And then again, Nagle Place has a picture of one of her rosaries, so I have that there. And because I'm a little neurotic, I thought, well, there's going to be some gardens, but what do gardens look like in Ireland, and what would be of some of the plants that they would have at their time? So a little more of those details there. And other details like the chalice that you'll have at the museum where it comes apart, so then we can hide them. Well, I based that on the real chalice there. I kind of based on the upper left, there's Sister Cleta again, and then Father Donald Godfrey, who is an influence in my life, a friend of mine, a friend of Nanette as well, and as also from Cork. And so I thought, well, why don't I have a little cameo there? So the outdoor mass, that's well, let's just say that that's Father Donald there, you know. And
So we're very fortunate that Sister Mary Quinn did take us to a mass rock near Nano Nagle's Ballygriffith, and it was very, very inspiring to actually be at a place where mass was said. And again, it's like the serendipity, Stefan. Your drawing was had the same sacred feeling that that space had. So it
yeah,
was very.
it's definitely sacred. And then the sun was just about setting, and then as we were leaving, some people were arriving to say the rosary. So it was certainly felt like a living space. Now here in the drawing, it doesn't quite look, it's pewter, the chalice. It looks a little, I wanted to just stand out on the page and almost look like gold or silver, you know, or brighter silver. So I have it white and blue. Now you'll see that, I'll be mentioning that a little later on in another slide, another reason why I have that. And here's me and myself being a ham. You know, sometimes you can't find any other model to do these poses and things. And there's other illustrations here. You know, can't forget to eat. And then
I know it
there's
looks
some.
like you had Thai food to go or something.
Oh yeah, a little Chinese restaurant there. On the lower right, there's some lace work that now Nana wasn't alive when they were teaching lace, but soon after the sisters were, so I incorporated that in one of the borders. Having a little fun with that. And as you've seen in a few slides, the opening of the book has her, Nano Nagle speaking to us through a paint illustration, and then she's as if she's speaking to us from the hereafter, from the heavens. And so she's telling us all about her life. So I wanted to have her point of view as much as possible. So you start, she's a toddler, so in the upper left, you have a toddler's hand with a crayon. And then she starts getting older, and you're either looking over her shoulder sometimes, or it's our hand is her hand. And the title of the book, I Am Nano Nagle, and I titled that because I thought whoever's reading it is reading I Am Nano Nagle. So we are embodying her. No, maybe she's speaking through us in a way. Now let me just show you a few examples of the two-page spreads and how I would use composition and color and text to tell a story. It's important, I think it's important if I'm going to do an illustrated book to have this picture say some things and the text say some other things. Otherwise, there's no point in illustrating it, you know? And I'm also highly influenced by not only paintings, but movies, so the visual side. So this is a scene where she is entering an order, Ursuline order in Paris. She wants to be a nun. And so she starts there, but she's already feeling uneasy about being trapped inside. So I'll read this and I'll tell you a little bit about it. So there she is in the, well, we'll see a detail in a moment. She says, I was a novice, a student of religious life. Our eyes looked to God, the Father, to Christ, and to the saints. We turned away from the temptations of the world, and we prayed for people near and far. Jesus, when you walked among us, you were born from the poorest of the poor. You shared meals with the people on the margins, with the oppressed, with the outcasts. I was safely within the Abbey's walls, but my thoughts kept drifting out to the plight of the people on the margins, to the oppressed, to the outcasts. So see, here you have on the left, you have her inside, warm colors, looks like it's carved wood. I modeled this one after a presentation abbey in Quebec. And then on the outside, there's one from Paris. And then on the outside, I have blue tones, more muted colors, and there's a woman crouched on the ground there in pain. So here's a detail here of Nano, and she's not looking down the book like everyone else should be. She's kind of like Maria, and sound of music, distracted, and her eyes are looking, imagining what's outside. And she has a white veil, as a novice would have. And similarly, the woman on the street has a white, almost like a white veil, a white handkerchief over her head, and almost as if to kind of feel some simpatico, or maybe she's imagining that might be me or my grandmother or my mother, And we have the blue hue where the poor street is. Well, the crucifix is also blue. So it's almost as if Christ is like, well, he's there in that warm setting, but is he not also a part of, he was born in poverty, lived his life in poverty as well. So another composition here. This is when they open the first Presentation Convent, and they have a feast on Christmas Day. So it says here, in 1777, we took our vows. That same year, our two-story convent was completed. To celebrate the opening, we invited 50 people from the streets to a Christmas Day feast. Oh Lord, there's still so many in need. So here I had to imagine, well, I didn't have to imagine too much because you have a replica at Nagle Place of some of the items that they would have had. So here you have the cake, this little cake that they might have had. So I have a cake there. There's a model of a creche with some decorations with dried oranges. So I put that there. Hold on, let me take a sip from the Sip to Go cup sold at the store. Little advertisement there. And then also the cutlery. I'm trying to imagine what they would have had around that time. I read that they think there was beef stew, so we have the beef stew there. And there was no mention that I could find of music, but I'm pretty sure they would have had someone with a fiddle and a flute or something. So found it.
It was in Cork, yes.
Yeah, it was in Cork, and as you see, there's some of that lace on the outside. Now the colors. I was originally going to have this. Let me go back to that one slide. I was originally going to have it red and green, Christmas and all. But I thought, I want it to feel like a unique experience. And this is one of the colors that I was using in the palette, this magenta. So I thought, I don't want, subconsciously, I would imagine a lot of readers would suddenly go to Christmas cards or the Christmases that they've had in the past. But this is a unique experience in this person's life. And so I have this kind of bold magenta. You might think when you see this long table, it almost kind of looks like a table you might have seen before in life, like maybe The Last Supper, famous painting of The Last Supper. So I have this this carving up on my wall actually, and as a reference. So there, Nano is kind of, well, she's trying to follow the Christ, and so there she is in the center, and she's standing. Now she's not just waiting to be served. She is one who is serving. We are to serve. So there she's serving. A carafe, wine, symbolism, wine, mulled wine, they said they had. So I found this carafe that was this blue and white pattern, would have been a period. So there she is in the upper right, serving wine. Now, there's something that maybe people may not notice unless they looked at the book 100 times or something. But I thought, well, let me have kind of a running theme here. So the chalice, as I mentioned before, I had more of a blue and white. So I wanted that to stand out. But also, it's a blue and white with this carafe, and then middle right. Then you have this is in one of the almshouses that she makes for the elderly women as she was getting older as herself, and she has a blue and white toit comforter there. And then in the final death scene, we see she has passed away. Nano, also the blue toit. It's kind of a covering, like a shell casing. So like all of this is sort of, we're vessels for the Lord. So little tiny things here. I said earlier that I'm influenced by film, and I like that, books also time that goes by, there's a passing of time, but with visual books, it's like images go by, so I like sometimes having it seem as if one image fades into another, or a reference is referenced later on. So here's a few examples. The title page, First, we don't know who this woman is, or maybe some of the readers don't. So they see a painting in the wall. Oh, I'm Nagle. The next page gets larger, and then she starts speaking to us. And then we see she is holding a book. Then if you look at the detail of the book, if anyone wants to, it's the next 2 pages where she starts talking about her life. And you have the family tree and the crests. And then you have this little cameo, if you will, of her as a toddler with holding the Bible, and then her mother and father. Well, that cameo image is reflected in the very end, as we talk about the future generations. And there's that young girl in India with a presentation sister on her left and her mother on her right. She's holding a little doll that looks like the Nagle, and she actually has a book of science. So these little things hopefully enrich the story. And what a pleasure this was. What a pleasure to then finally meet some of the sisters in Cork, Ireland. Maybe not the same ones from the 1700s, but some of their relatives in a way. And to actually go into the archives and see those, and to launch it there. And we didn't have we had the books. We had about a dozen
had paper
softcovers.
copies of the book. We were
Yes.
able to they couldn't give us the hard copies, but they overnighted a cardboard copy, a paperback version of the book, so that we could sign it and give it. And then I think, Jess, you guys got the book a week later, but we through a lot of persistence and a great we actually used an Irish publisher.
Yeah.
We were able to get copies of the book. And I have to say, going into the archives was amazing. We saw Nano signing papers, and she was one of the few women of that time that was deemed educated enough to sign her own leases, her own bank documents. And it was such a great that you took us into the archives. And everyone was wondering where Stefan and I were, because we were there for about 45
shouldn't have gone to the archives right away.
Yes. But there's a group of people that were there for us, and then the sisters did have us for tea in the convent, so that was quite a nice event too.
So where can one get this book, you ask? The answer is, if you're in Ireland or in the UK, you just have to get it at Nano Nagle Place. So that version is, as she said, was printed by Anglo printers in Drogheda. Is that correct? Drogheda? Correct way of saying? Okay. At Louth, and as Nanette said, they were gracious because of the timeline and everything to get this together, of forwarding 12 free copies actually to softcover. So that was a good, very nice detail. But if you live in Newfoundland, or if you live in India, or if you live in North America, or anywhere where you can get Amazon,
Australia.
or Australia, Amazon or the competitors, actually, it's Ingram Spark. That's the one outside of Ireland and UK. You can get them there. But as Jess was telling us, y'all might start shipping places, so stay tuned for that. Maybe you can get one that's printed in Ireland or otherwise. And I can close this with just a little 2-minute video trailer. These books now have video trailers like movies do. So let's see if the sound works with mine. Let me know if you can. Could you hear that?
No, darn.
Oh, no, really?
No.
Really?
We had an Irish actor take Nano's voice and give us, maybe try it one more time, see if we get it.
It could be I think I have a bad luck effect on technology, Stefan.
Oh, do you?
So
see how it's,
influence being here today.
And I thought, well, yours was on YouTube, so maybe if it's in the slides, but let's see. Well, now it's doing a little